Gunbuster is heralded by many old-school anime fans as an all-time classic. This 6-episode OVA is packed to the brim with adrenaline, big action, big-ass mecha, inspirational yet cliché characters, a drizzling of late 80s charisma, and pacing with all the subtlety and patience of a high-speed bullet train flying off the rails and exploding into a mountain of carnage. There's a long list of reasons why Gunbuster is so highly regarded, not least of which is that it's the directorial debut of Hideki Anno. I'm sure you've never heard of him because he certainly never went on to create anything else that had any sort of important impact on anime's meteoric rise in pop culture. Anno's fingerprints are all over this OVA, mostly thanks to the creative control he had on the project. It's here that anime fans get witness the birth of his distinct directing style. Every single frame has purpose. There's plenty of examples of scenes that are presented from unusual angles, but they always work. They never feel strange. There's not a single square inch of the setting that's wasted. Not to mention Anno's distinct visual style is on full display. He and his team did a phenomenal job with the art design, and you can tell that this was a labor of love. The atmosphere presented in the environment snuggles your eyeballs. The use of color is loud and vibrant when it needs to be, and soft and understated when appropriate. It flirts with being obnoxious without ever really crossing that line. While there are plenty of action scenes, some of my favorite moments of this series are actually just glimpses of the interior design of the spaceships. Everything from the corridors, transport trams, locker rooms, hangar bays, community baths. That's probably a bad example. Why would you put a bath next to a giant window anyway?
You know why.
Anyway, a good number of the interior locations look simultaneously alive yet sterilized. The interior of the Exilian looks as clean as you would expect a space-aged military spaceship to look, but small details like scuffs in the walls or floors help to show us that it takes its fair share of wear and tear. It also has monitors displaying navigation and tactical data that would make the crew of the USS Enterprise cry with envy. There's a true sense of scale to everything. In an anime about giant mecha battlesuits inside of inconceivably monstrous spaceships pulling up alongside giant dying stars, scale's important, and I think they hit the mark with Legolas-level accuracy. The character design in Gunbuster is top-notch and some of the best not only for the late 80s but of the genre in general. It has all the traits that I find aesthetically pleasing, as viewers of my videos have certainly realized by now that I enjoy the general character look of most animes from this period. But Gunbuster's characters have just a little bit of extra flair that we would see later again in Neon Genesis Evangelion, and mimicked by plenty of other anime in the mid to late 90s. In fact, everything we see here are really early examples of the distinct visual style that would later be found in many projects from producer Gainax. And that's all thanks to the vision and dedication of Hideki Anno and his team. Keep in mind that this work of art, with all its impressive fast-paced animation and editing cuts, was achieved in the era of painstakingly perfected hand-drawn designs translated to plastic cells, and without the assistance of modern computer animation or editing programs. But Van, you devilishly handsome YouTube retro anime reviewer with a massive audience, I hear you say, what is Gunbuster about? Well, Gunbuster tells us a story of Noriko Takaya, a young girl whose father is a famous admiral that commands a fleet of ships in deep space. 8 years ago, Noriko's father went missing and is presumed dead after his ship and the rest of his fleet were attacked by aliens that are somewhat comically referred to as space monsters. 8 years after Earth's war with the space monsters begins, Noriko is entering high school age in the year 2023. Aw man, their 2023 has interstellar space battleships, giant combat mecha, and alien monsters. We really are living in the shittiest timeline. However, Noriko is not attending a regular high school. She's entered into a training school on Earth where the best and brightest students train to become pilots of the RX-7 machine weapons, advanced giant robot fighting suits capable of space combat, developed to battle against the alien monster threat. Noriko always dreamed of going to space and is fighting against her own inadequacies in order to one day be able to find or avenge her father. Noriko herself, to put it mildly, is not a skilled pilot. However, the training instructor, Coach Oda, referred to primarily as Coach, has his eye on the young pilot and believes she has potential. As it turns out, the RX-7 machine weapons are not only a tool to fight against the aliens, but also a tool to train pilots to hopefully identify candidates to pilot the new weapon that is in development, the Gunbuster. It's revealed that Coach served under Noriko's father and is one of the few surviving members of his ship when it was attacked by the space monsters. Apparently, due to her bloodline, Coach believes that Noriko can overcome her clumsiness and self-doubt and be one of the 2 pilots needed for Gunbuster. To that end, Coach pairs Noriko with Kazumi Amano, who's considered to be the best pilot trainee at the school. Noriko already idolizes the beautiful and talented Amano and is initially upset with the arrangement, as is Amano. Noriko doesn't believe she deserves being in the same position as Amano, considering the considerable gap in talent between the two and her crippling self-doubt. However, Coach shows Noriko how hard Amano trains, going above and beyond what is required from her in the day-to-day training classes, driving home to Noriko that it's not the lack of talent or that Amano is naturally gifted with abilities beyond Noriko's reach that makes her the best. It's Amano's drive, determination, and ambition to be the best. Noriko has the potential to be great, but she has to want to be great, and she has to work for it. As only 2 pilots from each school will be selected to go into space and embark on the fleet's mission to combat the alien threat, naturally Amano and Noriko are chosen because the plot demands that we have a story. So the 2 young pilots along with Coach are sent to space, where they'll continue to train alongside the best each school has to offer. It's also here that we learn that, in this reality, the Soviet Union still exists, and they have sent a pilot of their own named Jung.
Oh my god, nobody look! Nobody look!
Initially, Jung sparks up a brief rivalry with Amano, and by extension Noriko, and it challenges them to a fight during a training exercise. During the scuffle, they stumble across the corpse of one of the giant alien space monsters that's being held in the facility. After the dust settles and finding themselves in a bit of hot water with Coach, Jung apologizes to Noriko and Amano, which signifies the beginning of their friendship. From here, the story revolves around Noriko overcoming near constant adversity, from Amano having enough doubt in Noriko's abilities to refuse being her wingman in battle, to grieving the death of a guy she kinda had a crush on after 5 whole minutes of screen time together, including feeling responsible for his death after she froze up during her first encounter with the aliens, to having a full mental breakdown when Jung challenges her to combat, as she also has ambitions to pilot the Gunbuster. With Coach's help, she overcomes all of this and goes full anime, mustering the courage and determination to help pilot the Gunbuster and stand in the face of the alien menace as humanity's only hope. As great as its reputation would have you believe it is, Gunbuster certainly has its flaws. The most glaring of which is the pacing. Gunbuster moves at a neck-breaking speed. With only 6 episodes to tell the story, and packed full of characters and time jumps, there's essentially no time for the story to take a break, except to stop for gratuitous nudity, that is. It is an 80s anime take on Top Gun featuring female pilots in skin-tight leotards after all. So think of those instances as Gunbuster's version of the shirtless volleyball scene, only more weeb-friendly. While the action-packed story is fun enough as it is, I feel the plot could have been a lot more impactful if the creators could spare even a little time for some of the scenes to breathe. If Noriko had been allowed to spend maybe just even a little more time with Smith and fleshed out their relationship beyond just, oh, he's kinda cute, I kinda like him, oh, okay, he's dead now. We as the audience might have actually cared when he died. Another thing that bugs me a tiny bit about this OVA is that it plays fast and very loose with the laws of physics and science in general. It's kind of all over the place. Considering they hinge some of the plot on the existence of time dilation resulting from traveling at the speed of light, which could be an interesting plot device if done correctly, and had the presence of mind to include dialogue in which the crew of the Exelion discuss using gravity of celestial objects to make a space U-turn, it seems strange that they don't seem to have much of an idea on how a lot of those concepts actually work, or perhaps they just didn't care all that much. The science of the space travel and space combat in general is not particularly well thought out. But then again, this is the type of anime where you already kind of know you have to turn off your brain a little bit before you jump in. And of course there is the bath scene and the revolutionary artistic vision of bouncing anime boobs. All that being said, there's just too much good here burying the bad so quickly that we barely even notice it. I already discussed my love of the character designs and the overall art of this classic, and I've touched on how the flashy editing, unusual directing style, and action sequences are wonders to behold. Most of all, the Gunbuster itself looks fucking awesome, and the moment Noriko finally unlocks her anime hero skill is top tier cheesy in the best way possible. And can we talk about the music? Composer Kohei Tanaka provides a memorable soundtrack to the OVA and has no shortage of fantastic tracks. Some of my favorite aspects of 80s anime is always the music, and Gunbuster is certainly one of the best options out there to scratch that particular itch. The theme song, Active Heart, which is performed by Noriko Sakai, is particularly famous in my nostalgia zone. See, when I was much younger, my sister had this CD with a bunch of anime themes on it. The name of the CD escapes me right now, but it was essentially a now that's what I call music for anime. And if you don't know what that is, then God, you're young, and Jesus, I'm old. Anyway, the Gunbuster theme was one of the songs on this CD. I had listened to it countless times long before I had ever watched the anime. In fact, I had long forgotten where that song was from by the time I first saw Gunbuster, causing me to experience that Leonardo DiCaprio meme in real life when I fired up the first episode. Usually I end these videos by trying to draw attention to the poor anime that found itself to be the subject of my amateur ramblings. In this case, however, I certainly don't need to do that. Even today, there are plenty of folks that are aware of and have seen Gunbuster, many of which hold it in pretty high regard, especially because it's widely considered to have introduced many characteristics, visual styles, and themes that Anno would expand upon in his infamous Neon Genesis Evangelion. So instead of asking the internet to remember it or appreciate it, I'll simply say, yes, I agree with you all. Gunbuster is fucking rad. And to the small percentage of people out there that actively dislike it, well,
Oh my God, nobody look!